All right, let's welcome on our guest line as we talk about some of these big issues facing the country, Senator Tim Scott joining us once again here on the Mike Gallagher Show. Senator, greetings from Jerusalem. We're broadcasting from Israel with over 500 listeners, so we send you some Holy Land greetings. How are you?
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the extra anointing from the Holy Land.
You got it. Let's get right to it. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes together. It's been about 8 years that we've seen some challenging economic news, business news. In just the last few months, we've seen great news. The GDP in the third quarter growing by 3%. That exceeded the expectations. We seem to have a president who gets it and supports American businesses. And now I'm learning how our massive federal government is on one hand subsidizing industries, and on the other hand can harm those industries with anti-competitive practices. One industry that's being spotlighted is the American solar industry. Can you dive into that with us, Senator Scott, and tell us what's on the table here with this?
Yeah, Mike, let me just reinforce your comments, though. The consumer confidence is at a 17-year high. President Trump's policies and the confidence he brings to the business community is manifesting in one of the lowest unemployment rates sustained for a long time. 2 consecutive quarters of 3% or better GDP growth, and now we're having to face the headwinds of folks who want to raise artificially the prices in industries in an anti-competitive way that hurts American workers. You and I both, and as well as the listeners, should stand against any attempt to make it harder for homeowners and everyday consumers to have quality products, even in the solar industry, based on an anti-competitive position taken by some that would hurt thousands of jobs around the country, over 9,000 homes in South Carolina, and climbing very quickly. We have seen tremendous growth and wonderful success in South Carolina and around the country as we're able to lower the cost of energy through the solar industry.
So important, and there are 2 foreign-owned solar companies asking the government for special protection, and so there's a website that we've been asking our listeners to go to, usmadesolar.org. And if you go to usmadesolar.org, you'll be able to see all these issues, get it in a comprehensive way, be very informed, and be educated on this very important issue that Senator Scott is talking about, because we've got to protect jobs. This president has been about jobs. His whole campaign was about American jobs. The economy works because it's based on free markets. So please do us a favor. Go to usmadesolar.org. That's usmadesolar.org. Senator Scott, it's been a little bit of a contentious week, as you know, and one of your colleagues in the Senate, Senator Jeff Flake from Arizona, announcing that he's not going to run for re-election. I've always appreciated your method of shooting straight with your constituents, with Americans. Give us some of your thoughts on some of this contentiousness. Senator Flake says things are bad right now in this country, and yet a lot of people are scratching their heads saying we don't quite get it. What's your take on Senator Flake's big announcement this week, Senator?
Well, certainly his announcement to retire from the Senate caught us all by surprise. I know that he has been looking at re-election for a long time and trying to find the best way to serve the country, and I think he has opted to go a different direction, and I wish him well. Here's what we know long-term for the country's viability, competitiveness, and success as one nation under God. It requires us to find a passionate visionary who understands the long-term impact of good policy. I won't pretend that I always agree with the president from a rhetoric perspective, but the underlying policies are where we have to focus, and the squabbles that we're seeing within the party should not distract us from doing the right thing for the American people, as you have just described, to include a 3% GDP growth, tax reform, a patient-centered health care system. We have to make sure that we deliver conservative solutions for the American people, A, because it's the right thing to do, and B, because it leads to long-term dynamic growth, and I think it will rally us as one nation in a way that very few things can do. And while I will miss my friend in the Senate, I will be happy as we focus our attention back on policies and not personalities and the conflict that we see that have become commonplace in the American landscape politically.
As usual, and not unexpectedly, a very gracious answer from Senator Tim Scott from the great state of South Carolina, a state that I know and love quite well. Senator Scott, I appreciate you visiting with us for a few minutes here on the Mike Gallagher Show. All the best, and keep fighting the good fight, sir.
Safe travels back to our country, and God bless Psalms 1 country.